The checkered floor of Sullivan's diner stretches black and white beneath fluorescent lights that hum like dying insects at 3:17 in the morning. Silence swallows the room whole, that suffocating 3 a.m. silence when the world has stopped breathing and only the broken remain awake. Then the screen splits it open. A child's voice, small and fractured and terrified, tears through the stillness like a blade wrapped in ice. 7-year-old Emma runs across the checkered tiles in a torn purple pajama top and bare feet, her blonde hair wild around her face, her cheeks flushed crimson with panic. Behind her, Douglas Hale moves with the deliberate cruelty of a man who has never been told no. He is 6'2", broad through the shoulders, with a jaw that looks carved from concrete and eyes the color of storm clouds after they have turned violent. His shirt is half unbuttoned. The smell of whiskey clings to him like a second skin. His fist is already raised. Emma crashes into a booth corner. The impact rattles the table. Coffee mugs shake. A spoon falls and clatters against tile with a sound like a tiny bell announcing the end of something. Aria Reynolds does not think. She moves. She lunges from behind the counter where she has been scrubbing coffee stains since midnight, her elderly care home uniform still damp with bleach water, the hem riding up around her knees. She is 28 years old but looks 40. Her dark hair is pulled back so tightly it stretches the skin at her temples. Her eyes are the color of burnt amber, and they have seen more than they should have. A faint scar runs along her left collarbone, barely visible beneath the collar of her uniform, but if you looked closely, really looked, you would see that her skin is a map of pain written in thin white lines. She throws herself between Emma and the raised fist. The slap meant for the child connects with Aria's cheekbone instead. The crack echoes through the empty diner like a gunshot. Her head snaps sideways. For a moment, everything tilts. The lights blur. The floor tilts up and sideways and then rights itself again. She tastes copper. Her mouth has filled with blood. Emma collapses behind Aria's legs, her small body shaking so hard her teeth chatter. She does not scream anymore. Something worse than screaming has happened. She has gone silent. "Mommy," Emma whispers into the fabric of Aria's uniform. "Mommy, please." She is not her mother. Emma's mother died of an infected kidney stone that would have cost $47,000 to treat if there had been insurance, if there had been time, if God had been listening. Emma's mother was Aria's sister. That was 2 years ago. Emma has called Aria Mommy ever since, and Aria has never corrected her, because the word is the only thing keeping Emma tethered to life. Douglas grabs Aria's hair. His fingers tangle in the dark strands and pull. Her scalp screams. She is dragged backward, away from the booth, toward the door. Through the frost-covered window, the November night presses against the glass like something alive and hungry. Outside, a black SUV idles at the curb. The engine purrs like a predator at rest. The headlights are off. The windows are tinted dark enough to hide everything that matters. In the back seat, Nicholas Caruso sits perfectly still. He is 6'1", with shoulders broad enough to carry empires and the kind of face that women cross streets to avoid. His dark hair is combed back from his forehead with obsessive precision. He wears a suit that costs more than the annual rent on Aria's basement apartment, a charcoal grey wool with stitching so perfect it looks machine-made. His white shirt is open at the collar. A gold chain catches the streetlight. On his left ring finger, a band of white gold and diamonds sits heavy as a vow. His eyes are storm grey, and they miss nothing. He has been following Aria Reynolds for 3 weeks. It started as curiosity. She comes from the elderly care home on Chestnut Street, the one tucked behind the hospital where the forgotten old people wait for death like they are waiting for a bus that will never arrive. She moves through the world like a ghost, quiet, faithful, invisible. She works double shifts in that uniform, then works a third shift here at Sullivan's, scrubbing other people's coffee stains and eating their leftover toast if the owner is not looking. The owner, a woman named Ruth who has kind eyes but empty pockets, never stops her. Everyone in this diner knows that Aria is running from something. The bruises on her wrists tell stories. The way she flinches when a man's voice gets loud tells stories. The way she holds that little blonde child like the child is the only real thing in her life tells a story too. Nicholas has been watching her for 3 weeks, and he still does not know why. His men sit in the front seat. Carlo on the driver's side, Franco in the passenger seat, both of them absolutely motionless, both of them trained to see what their boss sees and understand what their boss understands without words. They do not ask questions. In Nicholas Caruso's world, the men who ask questions tend to disappear. Through the windshield, they watch Douglas Hale drag Aria toward the diner door. "Boss?" Carlo's voice comes quiet, careful. It is a question and not a question all at once. Nicholas's hand moves to the door handle. But what he does not know yet is that Aria Reynolds has been hiding scars that run in every direction like a map of hell written across her own body. He does not know that Emma is not her biological daughter but has become her daughter through 8 years of choice and sacrifice. He does not know that $5 is all the money she has left in the world, or that a letter-stamped final notice arrived in her mailbox 3 days ago demanding $85,000 in 7 days, or that she has already started planning how to disappear so that Emma can survive without her as a target. He does not know that in 48 hours, Aria Reynolds will sit in a booth at 3:38 in the morning and write him a letter that will destroy every wall he has built around his heart. A letter that confesses love he has not yet earned. A letter that says goodbye. But in this moment, all Nicholas Caruso knows is that his hand is on the door handle and his body is moving and something inside his chest has twisted into a shape he does not recognize. Before we continue, drop a like if this story hits you. Share it with someone who needs to hear it and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming tomorrow. Now let us go back to the beginning, to understand how Aria Reynolds became invisible. Rewind. 14 hours earlier. The morning light comes through the windows of the nursing home in thin grey slices. The hallway smells like antiseptic and old skin and the peculiar sadness of places where people wait to die. Aria pushes a cleaning cart down the corridor. Her back aches. Her feet ache. Her hands are calloused raw from bleach and hot water. Room 407. She knocks softly. No answer. She enters. Mrs. Chen lies in the hospital bed, 84 years old and shrinking. Her breathing sounds like wind through broken windows. Her hands are small as a child's. She has not spoken in 3 weeks, but her eyes are still alive. When she sees Aria, something flickers there. Recognition. Or maybe just hunger, the hunger to be touched by someone who is not a nurse in scrubs, someone who treats her like she is still a person and not a problem. Aria sets down her cleaning supplies. She takes Mrs. Chen's hand. "Good morning, beautiful," Aria says. Her voice is soft, the way you speak to something fragile. "I brought you something." From her pocket, she pulls a single vanilla wafer. She bought it yesterday with money she did not have, $2 she should have saved for the bus pass, $2 that came from eating nothing but coffee and toast for 2 days. But Mrs. Chen loves vanilla wafers. She lights up when she sees it. "Just a little bit," Aria says. "Just to remember that good things still exist." She breaks the wafer into tiny pieces and places them on Mrs. Chen's tongue. The old woman closes her eyes. Tears slide down her hollow cheeks. No words come. Mrs. Chen does not speak anymore, but her tears speak everything. Her tears say thank you. Her tears say I am still alive. Her tears say I am not completely forgotten. Aria cleans the room afterward. She changes the sheets, wipes down the bedside table, empties the waste bin. She works like she is painting a masterpiece, like every detail matters, because to Aria, every detail does matter. This woman's comfort matters. This woman's dignity matters. This woman is somebody. The shift supervisor finds her in the hallway at noon. "Aria, we need to talk about your hours." Her name is Mrs. Kowalski, and she has a clipboard clutched to her chest like it is a shield against empathy. She is 63 and exhausted and has made peace with the fact that she will never be more than what she is. She has decided not to let anyone else be more either. "My hours are fine," Aria says. "I can work whatever shifts you need." That's the problem. You're already working double shifts here, and we're getting reports that you're gone every night from 7 p.m. until morning. We need full-time people, not people who are ghosting to other jobs. It's not sustainable. Aria's hands clench into fists. She unclenches them. She forces her voice to stay level. I have a child to support. Then maybe you need to make better choices about how you got into that situation. The words hang in the air like poison gas. Aria does not defend herself. She has learned, over 8 years, that defending herself only makes people angrier. Instead, she nods. She says nothing. She goes back to work. At 3 p.m., her shift ends. She has 7 hours until she needs to be at Sullivan's Diner. 7 hours to be with Emma. She takes the bus across the city, holding onto the overhead rail while the bus lurches through traffic. The other passengers look away from her. She has become very good at being invisible. The man beside her moves slightly, as though her proximity might contaminate him. She is used to this. She does not expect to be seen. At the elementary school, she waits by the fence until the bell rings. Emma explodes out of the building like she has been compressed and finally released. She is 7 years old and still believes in goodness. She still believes that people who love you do not hurt you. She still believes that the world makes sense. Mommy! Emma runs toward her. Aria catches her, lifts her, holds her against her chest. Emma smells like crayons and childhood and the particular sweetness of a child who does not yet understand what it means to suffer. Hi, baby. How was school? We painted colors. But I made sad colors. Gray and blue and black. For the days when you feel sad, you can look at my sad colors and you will not feel alone because someone else made them too. Emma says this the way she says everything, as a simple fact. But to Aria, it is a prayer. It is a confession. It is a declaration of love between two people who have learned to survive on very little. They walk to the apartment. It is in the basement of a building on Maple Street. There is one window at street level, so if you lie on the bed and look out, you can see people's feet walking past. Aria has given Emma the bedroom. She sleeps on the couch, which sags in the middle and smells like old fabric and the particular grief of second-hand furniture. Are you working tonight? Emma asks. Yes, sweetheart. Mrs. Ruth will make you dinner. Ruth is the owner of Sullivan's Diner. She has a daughter Emma's age, and she lets Emma do homework in the back office while Aria works. It is not a perfect solution. Nothing about their situation is perfect. But it is what they have. Aria counts the money in her pocket. $5. She has $5 in the world. On the kitchen table, the letter sits unopened. It arrived this morning. The envelope is thick and official. It is stamped final notice in red letters. It is from a debt collector. The letter says that the hospital bills from Emma's mother's failed treatment, the bills Aria has been paying $20 a month toward for 2 years, have been sold to a collection agency. The new demand is $85,000. Full payment required in 7 days or legal action will commence. Aria does not open the letter again. She already knows what it says. She has read it enough times to have memorized it. $85,000. 7 days. She has $5. The math is very simple. The math is impossible. At 6 p.m., Emma is sitting at Ruth's kitchen counter with a grilled cheese sandwich, doing her spelling homework. Aria puts on her waitress apron. It is the color of old cream, stained with the evidence of 1,000 spilled beverages. She ties it around her waist. She ties it tighter. I will be home by dawn, she tells Emma. You sleep good, okay? I will see you in the morning. Will you be sad tonight? Aria looks at this child, this small, blonde, perfect child who should not have to ask this question. This child should be asking about recess and birthday parties and what Santa is bringing her. Instead, she is asking if her mother will be sad while she works through the night. Maybe a little, Aria says. But I have your sad colors. I will look at your sad colors and I will not feel alone. Emma nods, satisfied. She goes back to her spelling homework. Aria turns away before Emma can see her face break. At 11 p.m., Douglas Hale walks into Sullivan's diner. He is drunk. He is always drunk after 11, but tonight he is different. Tonight he smells like cologne and confidence, which is a worse smell than whiskey. Tonight he is looking for something, and when he sees Aria, his whole face changes. His mouth twists into a smile that is not a smile at all. He was her boyfriend. That was 8 years ago, when she was 20 and stupid and believed that love was something that happened to you rather than something you chose. That was 8 years of fists and apologies and promises that this time would be different. That was 8 years of her learning what it meant to flinch at a man's footsteps. That was 8 years of her finally leaving him and never going back. She thought he had moved on. She thought he had found someone else to hurt. But he is here. And he is smiling. Aria, he says. His voice is thick and sweet and wrong. Been a long time, baby. I need you to leave, Aria says. Her voice is flat. She has learned that emotion makes men like Douglas angrier. I'm just having coffee. Last I checked, this was a public diner. I can drink coffee if I want to drink coffee. He sits in a booth. He orders coffee. He watches her while she works. Every time she moves, his eyes move with her. Every time she looks away, she can feel his stare cutting into her skin like a blade. At 3 a.m., he is still there. Aria, he says when she approaches his table to drop the check. Come sit with me for a minute. Come sit and tell me you do not miss me. I do not miss you, she says. You're lying. I can always tell when you are lying. Your mouth gets small, like you are swallowing the words and they are poisoning you from the inside out. She does not respond. She sets down the check. She walks away. That is when Emma appears. Ruth has called an ambulance. Emma has called 911 from Ruth's office. Emma has learned, in her 7 years of living with Aria, that there are emergency numbers for when adults fail to keep you safe. Emma has learned that the world is not automatically a safe place, and sometimes you have to summon help yourself. By the time the sirens fade and Nicholas Caruso has moved his black SUV away from the curb, the night has already changed everything. Family is not always bound by blood but by those who choose to stay when the storm arrives. The radiator clanged at 4:53 in the morning, and Aria Reynolds did not wake because she had never fallen asleep. She lay on a mattress that had belonged to someone else before she found it on the curb, under a blanket so thin you could see through it to the grey light pressing against the basement window. The window sat at street level. Every footstep above her was a footstep through her bedroom. Every car horn was a violation of the 3 hours she had promised herself she would rest before the first shift began. She pulled herself up. Her back ached in the specific way that comes from moving other people's bodies for 8 hours straight, lifting Mrs. Chen from the bed to the wheelchair, transferring Mr. Jackson from the shower chair to the toilet, rolling residents over to prevent bed sores. Her hands were raw. The calluses had calluses. She looked at them as if they belonged to someone else. The uniform hung on a hook. Pale blue scrubs with her name embroidered crooked by a machine at a discount uniform place that had misspelled it the first time. Aria Reynolds. She had paid extra to have it redone, and the second attempt was still wrong. Aria Reynolds. She had stopped caring. Nobody read name tags anyway. Nobody looked at her long enough to read anything. She counted the money in her wallet. $5 bills. 2 quarters. $5.50. This was everything she had until Friday, and Friday was 5 days away. She had done the math. $3 for the week's portion of rent that she paid in increments to keep her landlord from evicting her on a Wednesday instead of a Tuesday. That left $2.50 to feed herself for 5 days, which meant 3 crackers a day if she was careful, and she was always careful. The crackers came from the break room at Riverside Care Home, left over from some resident's lunch tray. Stale, but calories were calories. She ate 3 now, standing at the sink, chewing slowly to make them last longer. The tap water was cold and tasted like rust. She drank it anyway. By 6:15 a.m., she had walked 40 minutes through pre-dawn Boston streets because the bus cost $2.40 and she could not afford the luxury of transportation. The sidewalks were empty except for the other invisible people, other people moving through the city in the dark, heading to jobs that paid minimum wage or less, jobs where the customers did not see them as people but as service. As functions. As background noise. Riverside Care Home occupied a renovated brownstone on Beacon Hill, the kind of street where real estate signs advertised properties in the 7 figures and the elderly residents here were spending down their final inheritances. The lobby smelled like artificial lavender and something underneath, something sick and chemical that no amount of spray could cover. Janet, the day supervisor, barely looked up from her desk as Aria clocked in. Janet had worked there for 12 years and had learned not to ask questions about the people who worked nights. Questions meant caring. Caring meant responsibility. Room 304 was at the end of the hallway on the 2nd floor. Mrs. Chen sat by the window, 93 years old, with a face like folded paper and eyes that did not recognize anything but one thing, kindness. When Aria entered with the breakfast tray, Mrs. Chen's entire body relaxed. "Daughter," Mrs. Chen said. "You came back." Aria set down the tray. The scrambled eggs were already cooling into a rubbery yellow mass. Toast. Orange juice. A cup of oatmeal that Mrs. Chen would not eat. "I came back," Aria said. "I was afraid you would not come back." Mrs. Chen reached out and touched Aria's hand. Her skin was paper thin, and her grip was nothing, but it held everything. "I had a dream you did not come back." Aria sat on the edge of the bed. Her shift started 23 minutes ago, but she sat anyway. Mrs. Chen pulled her hand closer and looked at it, confused, as if it had appeared from somewhere else. "Your hands are cold," Mrs. Chen said. "Are you not eating?" Aria did not answer. She watched Mrs. Chen examine the scrambled eggs with suspicion, then push the plate away. The eggs would go to the trash. Mrs. Chen never ate more than 3 bites of anything. But Aria's stomach was a fist clenching, and as soon as she was alone, she went to the staff kitchen and ate the eggs standing in the hallway, cold and rubbery, standing so she could see both directions at once. Janet walked past at 8:16 a.m., stopped, turned around. "You look terrible," Janet said. "When's the last time you slept?" "I'm fine," Aria said. "You're going to kill yourself working like this." "Both jobs? Every day? When do you rest?" "Nights," Aria said. It was not a lie and it was not the truth. It was the thing you said when someone asked a question and you did not want them to keep asking questions. The second shift began at 6 p.m. Aria changed into a different uniform, this one navy blue, with a logo for Boston Quick Eats embroidered on the chest. She drove a 2004 Honda Civic with 240,000 miles on it, a car that rattled at every red light, a car that smelled like old French fries and desperation. The oil light had been on for 3 months. She did not have the money to check it, so she did not check it, and she did not think about what that meant. In the glove compartment, underneath a stack of driving directions printed from the internet, sat a letter in a business envelope. The letter had arrived 2 weeks ago, and she had not opened it because she already knew what it said. The envelope was marked in angry red ink, "Final Notice. Immediate action required." She had opened it once. The number was $85,000. The deadline was 7 days from the date of the letter. The date of the letter was 8 days ago, which meant the deadline was tomorrow. Or yesterday. She had stopped tracking time in any way that made sense. The deliveries came through an app. She accepted each one, drove to each address, handed over each bag, collected each tip. At a brownstone on Commonwealth Avenue, a woman her own age answered the door in silk pajamas, laughing on the phone. The delivery was pad thai, $42. The tip was 87 cents. The woman did not look at Aria. She looked through her, the way you look through a window at what is on the other side. By 1:34 in the morning, Aria had delivered 23 orders and collected $12.16 in tips. She sat in the parking lot of Sullivan's Diner in her rattling car and pulled out her phone. Sharon was Emma's foster mother, a woman in her 50s who had taken Emma in 3 years ago when the state took her from Aria, when Aria had become too poor to be a guardian, when poverty itself became a disqualifying factor for loving your own niece. She texted, "How is she?" The response came back in 3 minutes, "Fever's down." But caseworker called again about the medical bills. They're threatening to move her to state care. Aria's hands began to shake. Emma was 7 years old. Emma had lived through things that 7-year-olds should not live through. Emma's mother, Aria's sister, had died of an overdose 5 years ago, and Aria had raised Emma for 2 years until the system decided that Aria's income of $24,000 a year was not sufficient. Emma had been in 3 foster homes since then. Sharon's home was the 4th. Sharon was good. Sharon was kind. Sharon fed Emma 3 meals a day and helped her with homework and had a house with heat and hot water. Sharon was also expensive. The medical bills for Emma's ear infections, her asthma, her nightmares, they added up. The state paid a portion. Aria paid the rest, which meant that every dollar she made at both jobs went to keeping Emma safe, to keeping Emma with someone who loved her, which meant that Aria herself had nothing. She typed back, "I'm working on it. Tell her I love her." The response was immediate, "She knows. She talks about you every day." Aria set the phone down on the passenger seat and pulled out the final notice letter. In 7 days, Douglas Hale's lawyers would begin court proceedings to collect. They would take her car. They would take her wages. They would take everything, which was almost nothing, but it would be enough to push her completely underwater. Emma would go into state care. Emma would be another number in a system that had already failed Aria at age 7, age 10, age 15, age 22 when she got pregnant by mistake and found herself alone. What Aria did not know, what she could not have known, was that someone had been watching her for 3 weeks. Someone had noticed her on a Tuesday night when she had delivered rigatoni to a penthouse on Newbury Street, noticed the way she moved like she was apologizing for taking up space, noticed the way her hand shook when the man who answered the door did not answer, when someone behind him said on the tables without looking at her. Noticed her all the way down the hallway of the penthouse, all the way back to her car, all the way through the rest of that night. Nicholas Caruso did not watch people by accident. When he noticed something, it was because he had decided to notice it. And once he had decided, he kept watching. Tonight, at 1:02 in the morning, as Aria pulled out of the diner parking lot, she would not see the black SUV that fell in 3 car lengths behind her. She would not see the man in the passenger seat, broad-shouldered and still, with dark hair that was beginning to silver at the temples and a scar that ran from his left eye to his cheekbone like a reminder of something brutal. She would not see him lean forward and say something to the driver in Italian, words too quiet to hear, words that changed the direction of everything that was about to happen. The November night stretched ahead of her like a blade wrapped in ice. In a few hours, nothing would be invisible anymore. In a few hours, someone would finally see her. But for now, she drove through the dark, one hand on the steering wheel, the other clutching a letter that demanded she disappear, and she had no way of knowing that the man following her had already decided that disappearing was no longer an option she was allowed to choose. At 3 in the morning, the checkered floor of Sullivan's Diner stretches like a chessboard under fluorescent lights that hum like dying insects. A coffee cup sits untouched on the counter. Rain hammers the windows in sheets, and the silence is the kind that comes right before everything breaks. Aria Reynolds sits in a corner booth, her hands wrapped around a mug she is too afraid to drink from. Her scrubs are soaked through. Her lips are the color of bruises. Across from her, Nicholas Caruso does not move, does not blink, does not look away. He is 6'3", broad-shouldered, with dark hair silvering at the temples and a scar that runs from his left eye to his cheekbone like a reminder of something brutal. His suit costs more than everything she owns combined. His watch is solid gold. His silence is louder than any threat. "He's coming," she whispers. Nicholas does not answer. He simply nods to Carlo, who stands by the door, and Carlo's hand moves to his jacket. Franco, stationed by the window, sees the headlights turning onto the street outside. 3 black SUVs. Unmarked. Moving fast. Aria. Nicholas leans forward. His voice is deep and solid like an oath. "Listen to me. When he comes through that door, you do not speak. You do not move. You let me handle this." She wants to tell him it is impossible. She wants to tell him that Douglas Hale is not a man you handle. Douglas Hale is a force. Douglas Hale is 8 years of fists and threats that the police ignored because his cousin wears a badge. Douglas Hale is the reason she works 2 jobs and eats yesterday's leftovers. Douglas Hale is $85,000 in debt that she never signed up for, now due in 7 days. Douglas Hale is the reason she has $5 in her pocket. $5. The diner door explodes open. Douglas Hale storms in like he owns the building, like he owns the city, like he owns her. He is 41 years old but looks older. His face is the color of a storm. His jaw is clenched so tight it looks like his teeth might crack. Behind him come 2 men in dark coats, the kind of men who do not knock on doors. They do not ask permission. They take what they want. Aria. His voice is a whip. "Get up." She does not move. Nicholas does not let her. His hand touches her wrist, so gently, so carefully, like he is soothing a frightened animal. Douglas's eyes find Nicholas and stop. Recognition flickers. Fear flickers. Then rage floods back in, because Douglas Hale has spent 8 years knowing that Aria had no one, that she was alone, that she had no one to call for help. And now she is sitting across from Nicholas Caruso, a man whose empire stretches across 3 states, a man whose name is whispered in the same breath as danger. Well. Douglas takes a step forward. This is interesting. The charity case found herself a sugar daddy. Sophie Langford appears behind him like a ghost in a fur coat. She is beautiful in the way that poison can be beautiful, and her smile is a blade. "I told you," she says to Douglas, her hand on his arm. "I told you she'd find someone to pay her bills." Aria's hands are shaking. The mug slips from her fingers. It shatters on the tile floor, and the sound echoes like a gunshot. Nicholas stands. Slowly. Deliberately. Every lieutenant in the diner goes still. Carlo's hand tightens on the revolver under his jacket. Franco's eyes go cold. "You have one chance," Nicholas says quietly, "to leave this diner alive." Douglas laughs. It is the laugh of a man who has never faced consequences, who has never met someone more dangerous than himself. "You think I'm afraid of you? You think this," he gestures at Aria, "this broken thing is worth your attention?" Something cold and dangerous stirs in Nicholas's chest. It is the same thing that stirred 8 years ago when his brother sold the family to enemies for $200,000 and a promise of safety. It is the thing that made him choose survival over mercy. It is the thing that made him capable of killing his own blood with his own hands. He walks around the table. Aria tries to stand, but he touches her shoulder and she understands. "Stay." Douglas throws the first punch. Nicholas catches his wrist without looking, without effort, like a man catching a child's fist. The sound of bone meeting bone, tendon meeting muscle, fills the diner. Douglas screams. "That is for the ribs," Nicholas says quietly. Franco moves. Carlo moves. The 2 men behind Douglas do not have time to move. It is over in 30 seconds. Douglas is on the floor, his left arm bent at an angle that arms are not supposed to bend. Sophie is backing toward the door, her face white. "You can't do this," she whispers. "My father will." "Your father will do nothing," Nicholas says. "Because by tomorrow morning, every major news outlet in Boston will have footage of you spreading lies about a domestic abuse victim on social media. By noon, your father's real estate company will be under federal investigation for laundering money through shell corporations. By evening, you will understand that some people you should never hurt. Sophie reaches for the door. Carlo opens it. She leaves without looking back. Nicholas returns to the booth. He sits across from Aria. Around them, Doreen the waitress stands frozen behind the counter, her hand over her mouth. The diner is silent except for Douglas's whimpers from the floor, where Franco now stands, his shadow falling across the man like a death sentence. It's over, Nicholas says to Aria. No. Her voice breaks. It's not. He'll come back. He'll hurt Emma. He will spend the next 40 years in federal prison. Nicholas pulls out his phone, shows her a screen. Text messages. Evidence. Bank transfers. Everything. My people have been building a case against Douglas Hale for 3 weeks. Assault. Extortion. Money laundering through that fake business loan. Wire fraud. When the FBI arrives at his apartment in 90 minutes, they will find documentation of every crime he has committed against you. Your name will be on every report. Aria's eyes fill with tears. They spill over, and she does not wipe them away. She lets them fall like rain, like the storm that brought her to this diner, like the storm that brought Nicholas into her life. Why, she asks. Why would you do this? Nicholas does not answer immediately. He looks at her across the table, and Carlo watches from the door with an expression he has never worn before. In 15 years of working for this man, Carlo has never seen him show mercy to anyone. Mercy is not a language Nicholas Caruso speaks. But he is speaking it now. Because you are not nobody, he says. You are someone who works 2 jobs and still finds money to keep a child safe. You are someone who was beaten and betrayed and still gets up. You are someone worth saving. And when you are worth saving, Aria, the people who hurt you become my problem. She reaches across the table. He lets her take his hand. Her palm is calloused from work, ice cold from the blizzard, trembling. Come with me, he says. Pack what you need. Leave with us. I have a house. You and Emma will be safe there. You will never work a night shift again. You will never count pennies to feed a child. She should say no. She should run. She should understand that men like Nicholas Caruso do not help people without collecting a price. But she is so tired. She is so afraid. And for the first time in 8 years, someone is looking at her like she is not invisible. Okay, she whispers. Outside, the November rain pounds against the diner windows like fists trying to break through. 3 blocks away, the Federal Bureau of Investigation is preparing a warrant. By dawn, Douglas Hale will be in custody. By sunrise, Sophie Langford's social media accounts will be flooded with the truth about what she has done. But Aria does not know this yet. She only knows that the man across from her, dangerous and powerful and scarred, has decided that her life matters. He has decided that she is worth protecting. He has decided that the storm is over. Doreen appears with a towel and drapes it gently over Aria's shoulders. In the corner booth of Sullivan's Diner, under fluorescent lights that burn like dying stars, something broken begins to heal. The rain keeps falling. But the rain cannot reach her anymore. The November rain pounds against the diner windows like fists trying to break through glass. Douglas Hale stands in the doorway, 6'2" with shoulders like a linebacker, his face the color of a bruise. Alcohol fumes roll off him like smoke from a burning building. Behind him, 2 men, both large, both armed, both looking like they would hurt someone for $50 and a laugh. Douglas sees Aria and smiles. There you are, baby. We need to talk. Aria stands, backing toward the corner booth where Emma sleeps, her small frame curled under Nicholas's black cashmere coat. The coat costs more than Aria has made in 6 months. Nicholas rises, and the diner goes absolutely still. Doreen freezes mid-step, a coffee pot suspended in her hand like a weapon she might use if this turns ugly. Douglas's smile widens when he sees Nicholas. "Who the hell are you?" Nicholas says nothing. His silence is like a blade wrapped in ice. Douglas laughs, the sound sharp and ugly. "Oh, I get it. She's working you. Playing victim, making you think she needs saving. But she owes me $85,000 and I'm here to collect." His hand tightens around a gun at his waist. "You understand? We're settling this debt tonight." "She owes you nothing," Nicholas says. His voice is deep and solid like an oath. Douglas's laugh dies. "Stay out of this. This is between me and her." "No. It's between you and me now." Douglas pulls the gun. The metal glints under the fluorescent lights like a predator's tooth. Carlo and Franco move like lightning, weapons drawn, their suits suddenly hiding iron and intention. The diner erupts into a standoff. The coffee pot slips from Doreen's hands and shatters on the checkered floor, pieces scattering like something broken that can never be put back together. "You think I'm scared of you?" Douglas's voice cracks slightly. "I know who you are, Caruso. I also know you can't touch me in public without starting a war you don't want." His grip tightens on the gun. "So here's what happens. You walk away, I take her and the kid, and nobody gets hurt." "You're right. I won't touch you here," Nicholas says quietly. He steps closer to Aria, shielding her with his body. "But you're going to leave. And you're never coming back." Douglas grins, thinking he's won. Thinking fear has protected him. Then Emma wakes. She sees Douglas. She screams, a sound like a small animal recognizing its predator, and runs toward the kitchen. But Douglas moves faster. His hand snaps out, grabbing her arm. Emma screams tear through the diner like something being ripped open from the inside. Aria throws herself forward. "Don't you touch her!" She crashes into Douglas, desperation giving her strength she didn't know she possessed. He backhands her without thinking, without hesitation, like she's nothing more than an irritating fly. She crashes into a table, her body colliding with wood, her head spinning, her lips splitting open. Nicholas's face goes cold. Not angry. Cold. The kind of cold that comes before the storm that destroys cities. He makes a small gesture. One hand, barely a movement. Carlo moves like smoke, crossing the diner in 2 steps. The gun is ripped from Douglas's hand and pressed against his skull so hard it leaves an indentation in his skin. Douglas freezes, his breath catching in his throat. His 2 men on the ground, Franco standing over them, weapons drawn, expressions blank as stone. Douglas whispers, wait, let's talk about this." Nicholas walks to Aria. He helps her up slowly, gently, like she's made of glass. Her lip is bleeding. Blood drips onto the checkered floor, a small dark stain on black and white. He looks at her face for 3 seconds, seeing the fear, seeing the damage, seeing everything Douglas has taken from her. Then he turns back to Douglas. "You want to talk? Let's talk about what happens to men who hurt women and children in my city." Douglas is trembling now, his bravado evaporating like morning mist. "My city," he manages. "I have rights. I have connections." "Had," Nicholas says. The word falls like a hammer. "You had those things." "Not anymore." 1 hour later, the snow has stopped. The sky is beginning to lighten toward dawn, a grey-blue color that looks like grief. Aria sits alone in the corner booth at Sullivan's diner. Nicholas took Douglas and his men and left without explanation. The diner is empty except for Emma, who sleeps across from her wrapped in Nicholas's coat. The smell of coffee and rain and fear still hangs in the air. Aria stares at the final notice letter on the table in front of her. $85,000. 7 days. Even if Douglas is gone, even if he's been dragged away by Nicholas Caruso into whatever darkness men like him inhabit, the debt remains. The collectors don't care about justice. They don't care about abuse or poverty or a mother who has worked herself to the bone trying to keep her daughter alive. They only care about the numbers. $85,000. 7 days. She reaches into her coat pocket. Her hands shake as she pulls out a napkin and a pen, the same pen she uses to write Emma's lunch notes. My butterfly, remember to eat all your vegetables. I love you. But there are no more lunch notes coming. There are no more mornings. There is only this, a desperate attempt to leave words behind. She writes, Nicholas, I don't know how to thank you for what you did tonight, so I won't try. But I need you to understand something. People like me, we don't get saved. We just survive until we can't anymore. And I can't anymore. Her hand moves across the napkin, the pen scratching against paper like a small animal clawing at a cage. The debt will never go away. Douglas might be gone but Sophie isn't, and she'll make sure I can't work anywhere in this city. No restaurant will hire me. No family will let me near their home. I am poisoned now. And Emma deserves better than a life running and hiding. So I'm leaving. Not because I want to, but because it's the only way she survives. I'm writing this because I need you to know, you made me feel human again tonight, and I haven't felt human in 8 years. I don't know if what I feel for you is love or just gratitude, but it's real, and it's the only real thing I have left. Please don't look for me. Forget you ever met the delivery girl. Take care of yourself, Nicholas Caruso. You're a better man than you think you are. Aria. She folds the napkin, stands up carefully so as not to wake Emma. The diner door is 15 steps away. She counts them as she walks. 1, 2, 3. The bell above the door will chime when she pulls it open. 4, 5, 6. She'll have to be quick after that. 7, 8, 9. Find a bus station. Find a different city. Start again with nothing but Emma and whatever lies she can tell to get them both across a state line. Then the diner door opens. Nicholas walks in. Behind him, Carlo, Franco, and 3 other men dressed in black suits that cost more than Aria's entire apartment. Nicholas sees the napkin letter in her hand. He walks to her, takes it, reads it without changing his expression. The other men remain by the door, their presence filling the diner like dark water rising. No, Nicholas says. What? You're not leaving. You don't understand, the debt is gone. I bought it. All of it. $85,000. Paid in full. He hands her a document. Her hands shake as she reads it. Her name. The amount. Paid. Settled. Released. It's real. She whispers, why? Because I choose to, Nicholas says. He steps closer. Because Sophie Langford will retract every lie she told by noon today, or I will destroy her father's company by Monday. Because Douglas Hale is currently on a plane to Chicago in the custody of the Rossetti family, a rival family who has wanted him for 3 years because he stole from them. They'll make sure he never comes back. Because a woman who works double shifts and counts pennies to feed a child is worth more than $85,000 and 100 more after that. She looks at him, this man who followed her in a blizzard, who placed his hand between her and violence, who bought her freedom like it was the most obvious thing in the world to do. I meant what I wrote in a letter, she whispers. Nicholas steps closer. So did I. He cups her face, carefully, like her skull might shatter at the slightest pressure. He kisses her gently. Behind them, Carlo mutters to Franco, 15 years. I've never seen him like this. Emma wakes up. She sees them, sees her mother being held like she matters, and she smiles. A child's smile. Perfect and unguarded and everything Aria has been fighting to protect. The morning light breaks through the diner windows. Outside, the city is waking up. But inside Sullivan's diner, something broken has finally found shelter. Family is not always bound by blood but by those who choose to stay when the storm arrives. 2 months later, the November light falls soft and gold across the hardwood floors of a brownstone apartment in Back Bay. Aria Reynolds stands in the doorway of the master bedroom, watching her daughter chase a tabby kitten Nicholas brought home last week. Emma's laughter rings out like bells, pure and unguarded, a sound Aria thought she would never hear again. The apartment has 3 bedrooms. Central heating. Windows that overlook Boston Common. Rent is covered for 2 years. When Aria tried to refuse, Nicholas simply said, "You're working for it." And she is. Aria now manages logistics for his legitimate businesses. The restaurants. The real estate holdings. The investment portfolios that sprawl across New England like a quiet empire being slowly converted from darkness into daylight. She makes $75,000 a year. Health insurance. A 401k. Paid time off. The numbers still feel like fiction to her, like numbers printed in someone else's life that somehow landed in hers by mistake. Emma is enrolled at Ashford Academy, a private school where the teachers keep inhalers in every classroom because they know about her asthma. They know her. They see her. She is not a charity case or a burden. She is a student. A daughter. A child who deserves to breathe without fear. Sharon visits every Sunday. She brings pastries from the Italian bakery on Hanover Street and sits at the kitchen table, holding Aria's hand, sometimes without speaking. Just being there. Just bearing witness to the fact that her daughter survived something that should have shattered her. Emma runs past Aria into the living room, the kitten scrambling under the sofa, and Aria follows. This is what safe feels like. Not the absence of danger, but the presence of someone who will stand between you and it anyway. She watches her daughter bounce on the furniture, knows she should say no, but doesn't. Emma has so much lost time to recover. The elevator sounds from the hallway at exactly 6 p.m. Nicholas arrives like he always does now, directly from business, still wearing his suit, still carrying the weight of decisions that determine other people's fates. But when he steps through the door and sees Emma, something shifts in his face. His shoulders lower. His jaw loosens. He is no longer the man who commands 37 men across 3 states. He is just a man trying to be gentle with a child. He sets down the takeout containers from Sullivan's Diner. The same diner where Aria served soup to men with money and power and never imagined one of them would see her as anything other than invisible. The steam rises from the food. Garlic. Basil. The smell of his world expanding to include hers. They eat together. The 3 of them. Emma chatters about her teacher, about how she learned to divide fractions, about a girl named Sophie who shared her snacks even though Sophie has a mean older brother. Nicholas listens with the same intensity he reserves for business calls. He asks questions. He remembers details from yesterday's story and builds on them. He treats her like what she says matters. After Emma falls asleep, her small body curled under a blanket Nicholas brought from Milan, Aria and Nicholas sit on the sofa. The city glitters beyond the windows. Snow begins to fall, coating the common in white. Aria turns to him and asks quietly, "Do you ever regret it?" "Saving me?" Nicholas doesn't answer immediately. He takes her hand. His palm is warm. His fingers are strong and scarred from a life she will never fully understand. "Every day I don't regret it," he finally says. Even though I brought danger into your world?" "Nicholas, you are not the danger. You were drowning in it. There's a difference." Your enemies are watching. I've seen the men in cars outside. What if they use me against you?" Nicholas turns to face her fully. His eyes are dark gray, like storm clouds. Like the sky before lightning strikes. "They'll try," he says. "I'll stop them." You can't protect everyone. Not forever. Eventually someone will get through." Nicholas reaches up and cups her face with his palm. His thumb brushes the scar above her left eyebrow, the one from Douglas Hale's knuckles the night before Nicholas found her in the snow. "I spent 15 years building walls," he says. "Walls made of concrete and cruelty and the knowledge that trust is fatal. My own brother taught me that lesson. He walked away with my family's money and walked back in a body bag. So I decided, no one gets in. No one gets close. No one sees the man underneath the empire. He pauses. His voice drops lower. You walked through every single wall without trying. You didn't force your way in. You didn't demand anything. You just looked at me like I was worth saving, and something inside me that I thought was dead woke up. So no. I don't regret it. I regret that I didn't find you sooner. She kisses him. It tastes like garlic and wine and the kind of certainty she never thought she would feel again. Outside, snow continues to fall, gentle and steady, but inside this apartment Aria is warm. She is safe. She is no longer counting the hours until Douglas finds her. She is no longer dividing her meager paychecks into survival categories. 2 months ago she was eating leftovers from meal trays discarded at the elderly care home. Scraps of chicken. Rice that had cooled to room temperature. She was sleeping in a basement with no heat, with Douglas's threats echoing through her dreams. She was writing goodbye letters at 3:38 in the morning. Now Emma has everything she needs. Aria has a career. And Nicholas has something he never expected to want, a reason to come home. But what she doesn't know is that his enemies are watching. 3 blocks away, on Pinckney Street, a black sedan sits in shadow. The engine is off. The headlights are dark. Inside the vehicle, a man in his 50s with cold eyes holds a camera with a telescopic lens. He has been sitting here for 40 minutes, watching the brownstone. He has 12 photographs. One shows Aria at the window, her hand against the glass. Another shows Nicholas kissing her forehead. Another shows Emma laughing, caught mid-leap. The man texts, "Found her. What do you want us to do?" The response arrives within seconds, "Wait. We move next week. Let him feel safe first." Fear is sharper when the victim believes they're protected. The man lowers the camera. He has been doing this work for 23 years. He has never questioned the jobs. Questions get people killed. He simply takes the photographs and waits for instructions. This job is different, though. This girl is different. She is the kind of different that makes men burn cities down. He doesn't know that yet. But he will. Meanwhile, in a penthouse 37 floors above the city, a woman named Victoria Castillo sits at her desk reviewing court documents. Sophie Langford's legal team has filed for bankruptcy protection. Her social media accounts have been deleted. Her father's country club membership has been revoked. Her name, once printed in Boston Magazine alongside words like philanthropist and visionary, now appears only in articles about fraud and embezzlement and abandoned charity foundations. The humiliation is complete. But Victoria does not feel satisfied. Satisfaction is not what she is pursuing. She is pursuing something colder and more valuable than reputation. She is pursuing leverage. And leverage requires hostages. She picks up her phone and calls a number that has been dormant for 2 weeks. The phone rings twice before a man's voice answers. His voice is rough, like he has been sleeping in a car. "Hello," she says. "Are you ready to earn your freedom?" The man on the other end of the call is Douglas Hale. He is currently in Chicago, in a warehouse owned by the Rossetti family, a family Nicholas Caruso handed him to like a gift. The Rossetti family sees Douglas as a thief who stole from them 3 years ago. They see him as a problem that needed solving. They were happy to take delivery. But Douglas made a deal with Victoria before Nicholas's men collected him. Douglas gave Victoria information. Names. Locations. Security protocols. Details about Nicholas's operations that could be weaponized by the right enemy. And Victoria is the right enemy. She is 51 years old. She wears clothing that costs more than most people's monthly rent. She has been waiting for 8 years for an opportunity to destroy Nicholas Caruso, ever since he destroyed her brother's cocaine empire in Boston and had him extradited to Mexico. Now she has the opportunity. And she has something better than vengeance. She has a girl. A girl with grey eyes who serves soup in a diner. A girl who made Nicholas Caruso feel something he hasn't felt since before his brother betrayed him. A girl who will make him burn. But none of them know this yet. Not Aria, who is falling asleep in Nicholas's arms while the snow falls outside. Not Nicholas, who is telling Emma stories about his childhood in Naples, stories he has never told anyone before. Not Emma, who is dreaming of kittens and school and a future that doesn't hurt. They are all about to learn what happens when the most powerful man in Boston is forced to choose between his empire and the people he loves. And what choice he makes will determine the ending of this story. The question is whether there will be anyone left to read it. This story teaches us that even in the darkest moments, love finds a way. If you believe that, hit like and subscribe. Leave a comment and tell us how this story made you feel. Thank you for staying with us until the very end.